Let's open the book on this. Today in Atlanta, the Persian New Year takes on a more somber tone against the backdrop of international conflict.
All right, let's set the stage for this one.
I'm Leah.
And I'm Garrett. Welcome to Laid Back Local, the news of the day with Leah and Garrett here in Atlanta.
First up, amid war, Atlanta's Iranian community reflects on a somber Nowruz. Nowruz is the Persian New Year, a more than 3,000-year-old celebration that marks spring, usually joy-filled and stretching 13 days. This year, it's subdued here because of the ongoing conflict and strikes in Iran. Reports say more than 1,300 people have been killed in the fighting, and families here are anxious for loved ones back home. The Persian Cultural Center in Atlanta is still holding traditional ceremonies. That includes the Haft-Seen table, a display of 7 symbolic items that begin with the same letter in Farsi. Each item represents things like renewal, health, and patience. Quick context. Diaspora means a community living away from its homeland. This conflict is a reminder of how global wars reach into diaspora lives even across continents. One more note of timing. On March 12th, strikes in Tehran reportedly killed at least 40 people. That kind of news landing right as Nowruz begins on March 20th changes the tone for so many families here who would normally be focused on spring cleaning, new clothes, and big gatherings.
Yeah, that hits different. It's hard to imagine celebrating when your phone is lighting up with grim updates from home. I really admire that the community is keeping traditions alive, even scaled back. Culture can be an anchor in rough seas. And that Haft-Seen table, like you said, Leah, is not just decoration. It's a daily reminder of hope and renewal. Honestly, keeping that ritual going feels like an act of care and connection when everything else is chaotic. Why do you think those 7 S items matter so much right now?
Because they are simple symbols you can touch: renewal, sweetness, patience, rebirth. When events are out of your control, those small shared meanings help people feel grounded and less alone.
All right, let's roll on. Tragedy in Jasper. In Jasper, a VA clinic social worker, Nick Cruz, was fatally shot on March 17th by a veteran. The VA is the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs, which provides healthcare and support to military veterans. Cruz was known as a devoted father and a passionate advocate for mental health and for his faith community. His funeral is set in Marietta, where friends and family are gathering to honor his life and service. This incident highlights 2 tough truths. Social workers face real risk because they often meet people at crisis points, and it underscores the ongoing mental health challenges among veterans. When we say risk, in plain terms, these professionals step into volatile situations to help people stabilize, which takes courage and steady training.
That one gave me chills. Social workers are often under the radar, but they are frontline responders in a lot of ways. They navigate trauma, anger, and despair, and they do it with compassion. We need stronger support systems for them and for veterans. That means more staffing, consistent counseling access, and safety planning that protects both caregivers and patients. Real talk. Losing Nick Cruz is a loss for the whole community. Why does this job stay so high risk, even in clinical settings?
Because crises do not follow schedules. Even in clinics, emotions can spike quickly and resources can be stretched thin. De-escalation tools help, but when needs outpace staffing and time, vulnerability rises. It's a reminder to invest in prevention and sustained care, not just emergency response.
Okay, let's move on. Atlanta lawyer Brian Schmidt has been granted eased bond conditions before his murder retrial. He is accused of killing real estate developer Hamid Jahangard in what prosecutors describe as a road rage incident, allegedly using his Mercedes as a weapon. Schmidt's law license remains suspended while he awaits retrial, which means he cannot practice law. The court relaxed his bond terms on March 20th, despite the victim's family urging the judge to keep him confined within Cobb County. Quick definitions. Bond conditions are the rules a judge sets for someone released from jail while their case is pending. They can include travel limits, check-ins, or electronic monitoring. A retrial means the case is heard again, often after a mistrial or an appeal. These changes do not decide guilt or innocence, but they do shape daily life for the accused and can spark strong public reaction. In high-profile cases, any easing of restrictions often draws scrutiny because families are grieving and the stakes feel high.
I get the legal process, but I have questions here. When a family is asking the court to keep tight limits, easing up can feel like the system is not hearing them. Public trust depends on people feeling like safety and accountability are front and center. Why would a court loosen conditions now?
Generally, judges weigh factors like flight risk, prior compliance with rules, and the severity of charges. If someone has followed conditions for a period of time, a court might adjust them. That is not a value judgment on the tragedy, just a procedural step. But you are right, Garrett. The perception of fairness matters, and families deserve clear explanations when decisions like this happen.
Let's keep it moving. The Georgia Court of Appeals ruled that Fulton County commissioners can refuse to seat two Republican nominees, Julie Adams and Jason Frazier, on the county's 5-member election board. The election board oversees how elections are run locally, like polling places and certification procedures. This ruling reverses a prior order from a senior judge that would have appointed the nominees and emphasizes that commissioners hold the appointment authority. Quick explainer: an appeals court is a higher court that reviews whether legal decisions followed the rules, kind of a quality control step for the law. The takeaway here is about local governance mechanics, not who wins or loses politically. Commissioners have discretion in appointments, and the court affirmed that structure.
I see this as a check and balance at the county level. Appointments should pass through the people who are accountable for them, and that includes saying no when appropriate. Process clarity matters for election confidence. If the rules say commissioners get the call, then following that chain is important for stability and trust, regardless of party. Last up, ongoing TSA shortages are causing chaos during Atlanta's spring break rush. Hartsfield-Jackson, the world's busiest airport, is seeing severe security delays as the partial government shutdown drags on. TSA officers who are part of the Department of Homeland Security have been working without pay, and more than 360 have quit nationwide. Travelers reported lines reaching 90 minutes or more at peak times, and on Saturday those lines even stretched all the way back to baggage claim, which is highly unusual here. The shutdown stems from a funding impasse over immigration enforcement. The big vulnerability this exposes is that critical infrastructure like airport security can be strained quickly when funding stalls. Delta is advising international travelers to arrive 4 hours early. Domestic travelers should arrive earlier than usual. It is not ideal, but planning ahead can save you from a missed flight during this crunch.
That is rough for travelers and brutal for TSA officers. Not gonna lie, asking people to hold the line without pay is a recipe for burnout. For sure, we need the funding stalemate fixed so checkpoints can be fully staffed again. Until then, build in extra time, pack light to move faster, and keep documents handy. Small moves, big payoff when lines are snaking through the terminal. All right, that ties it up nicely.
Thanks for tuning in to Laid Back Local, the news of the day, with Leah and Garrett here in Atlanta. Have a great day, and we will catch you tomorrow.